you were of the opinion that an autopsy that there was a laryngospasm, there wouldn't be any physical evidence to dispute that in the autopsy, would there?
That's correct. The autopsy is not a useful tool for determining the presence or the absence of laryngospasm before death.
And as far as the physical evidence you discovered during the second autopsy, would you agree you found sickling in every major organ in Martin Lee Anderson's body?
Yes.
Okay. You saw no physical evidence of any laryngospasm, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, yes, the clinical course indicated that he had a coma come on within about half an hour of the first part of the episode.
So did that indicate in your mind evidence of a death by sickle cell exertion?
Well, once again, it's consistent. The whole clinical course is described in the hospital record. If the circumstances proffered, if you were to ask me a hypothetical question, assume that the guards did nothing at all, is the hospital course consistent with a collapse from sickle cell trait? The answer is yes. The entire course is perfectly consistent with that, including the early coma and the mild rise in the muscle enzymes and the metabolic acidosis, the pH, the whole thing.
So the medical evidence itself completely supports exertional sickle cell death in this case, correct?
Yes, it supports both hypotheses equally.
So, doctor, is it fair to say that if your interpretation of the video is wrong, then your cause of death is wrong? Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Now, you talked a little bit about ammonia capsules. Let me ask you about that. Do you know at what rate ammonia capsules dissipate?
No.
Have you ever known of an ammonia capsule to ever cause a laryngospasm in someone?
I did not find any reports of anybody having laryngospasm from an ammonia capsule or dying from an ammonia capsule.
This opinion you have that the inhalation of an ammonia capsule caused a laryngospasm which suffocated someone into a coma state is the first opinion of its kind like that, correct, Dr. Adams?
Yes.
You said in your direct examination that deaths caused by exertional sickle cell are extremely rare, correct?
They are rare, yes.
But death caused by a laryngospasm suffocation because of an ammonia capsule, that number is 1, according to you, correct?
That we know of, yes.
It sounds like what you're telling us is there was absolutely no outward indication of any type at all that this young man had a serious health problem with it.
No, sir.
You never saw, the whole time you had him there, any outward indication of a serious health problem?
No, sir.
In fact, his medical assessments indicated that this young man was in superb physical shape, didn't it?
That's right. There were no health issues identified.
No red flags, was there?
That's correct.
Nothing to make any of these individuals sitting over here be concerned that he had some ticking time bomb, was there?
That's correct.
All the technology and all the available equipment over at Bay Medical, when they received this young man, they could not figure out what was wrong with him, could they, doctor?
They could not figure out the underlying problem. They certainly recognized the intermediate problem, the metabolic acidosis and the coma.
And then, when they moved him over to a specialized unit over in Pensacola, Florida, they couldn't figure out what was wrong with him, could they?
That's correct. Same answer.
Would it be helpful in treating a child with sickle cell trait to know that he had sickle cell trait in advance?
Yes.
And to know what to look for?
Yes.
And to know how to respond to it?
Correct.
And in this case, none of these people were told that he had it or what to look for?
I don't have any evidence of that.
Dr. Gramercy, let me ask you, do you have an opinion if Martin Lee Anderson did not have sickle cell, could he have recovered from boot incident.
Yes, he could have.
Person letter B over here that doesn't have the sickle cell condition and putting through the exact rigors that we saw in this case, well, he's going to spend the night in boot camp, that might be.
Understood. Yes, sir. That would be true.
Okay. So without this sickle cell condition and the sickling that began with Martin Lee Anderson, he would not have died.
That's right. It's all part of the mix.
And that sickling event that you're talking about that plays the part that causes him to die is an unforeseeable event, isn't it?
In the context that we discussed, yes.
Yeah.
Would you agree that that would have been vital information? Vital information for this lady right here to have. Stand up, Miss Smith. She's a boot camp nurse. Would it have been vital information for her to know that this young man had sickle cell?
It depends on what she knew about sickle cell trait and the potential for collapse.
You reviewed their forms, didn't you?
Right. As we just discussed, there were 3 well-qualified physicians to whom it did not occur that this collapse was related in any way to sickle cell trait.
Listen to my question. You reviewed those medical screening documents, hadn't you?
Yes, I did.
And all those documents specifically ask about sickle cell, don't they?
They do.
They're on there for a reason, aren't they?
I suppose they are, yes.
And it would have been real nice for that nurse to know, wouldn't it?
Would have been good for to bring out any pertinent information.
It would have been good for the nurse, and it would have been good for the instructors, wouldn't it?
If the information would mean something to them.
And it would have been good for Martin Anderson, wouldn't it?
If they had been in a position to realize the implications of sickle cell trait in an environment with dehydration and exertion and restraint and suffocation.
In fact, it could have meant the difference between life and death in this situation, couldn't it, Mr. Adams?
Yes,
And you know Charlie Siebert, don't you?
I do.
He's a professional man, isn't he?
He's a well-trained forensic pathologist and a valued colleague.
Thank you very much. At this point in my life, at 54 years of age, I sure don't want to be humiliated and vilified and crucified like Charlie Siebert, do I?
You don't need to be 54 years old to feel
To
that
not
way.
want to wind up like Charlie Siebert, right?
Excuse me?
To not wind up like Charlie Siebert.
I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
Thank you. Whether you're 34, 44, or 54, nobody wants to be vilified and crucified like Charlie Siebert, right?
I agree with that.
Sure.
Martin Lee Anderson didn't die from suffocation, did he?
No, sir.
So, doctor, is it fair to say that if your interpretation of the video is wrong, then your cause of death is wrong? Would you agree with that?
Yes.